England need to bounce back after what happened against Pakistan, and they've got another formidable Asian team in Bangladesh who've given a very good account of themselves this World Cup with the game against South Africa under their belt, nearly upsetting New Zealand in their second encounter. To look ahead to that game on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019, England v Bangladesh. Ajit Agarkar is in studio here, and we also have Shahriar and Nafees who will join us in just a minute from the Bangladesh perspective. Let's just look at the potential England playing 11 and then have Ajit's thoughts on it. They made the change of bringing in Mark Wood for Liam Plunkett after that first game with the intent to try and beat Pakistan with pace and bounce. It backfired, it didn't quite work, but Ajit, you stay with the same team because you think that's possibly the best looking England team in general?
Yeah, I think so. I think Mark Wood is one of those guys who can on his day get you wickets, can be a match winner. He was always their first choice. I know Plunkett's got a good record when he bowls in the middle of the innings, has the ability to get wickets, but Mark Wood missed the first game because of injury. So if that is your best 11, you've got to continue with those guys and not just change after one loss. I think Pakistan were better on the day. And this England team's a good one. I'm sure they'll bounce back. So I'm not of the opinion of making too many changes just because we've lost a game. I mean, they've won one, lost one, and still in good shape and a very good team in this World Cup. So yeah, I'd stick with Mark Wood if it was me.
All right, what about Bangladesh's team? Shahriar, they nearly upset New Zealand as well, pulled a game out of nothing. It looked like it was going New Zealand's way, but in spite of that loss, no changes for you either. You're sticking with the same team. You like the look and balance of this Bangladesh 11?
Yes, I still want to continue with the same team because if you look at the bench, we've got a couple of players who are like really contender for playing the matches. That is Leighton Dash and Rubel Hussain. At this moment, the batting lineup is doing good, and if you bring on Rubel Hussain, probably you are going to play with the strength of England. So we don't want that. Still sticking with the same 11. Bangladesh played a brilliant match. They made a match out of a nothing match basically because they didn't score enough. New Zealand was once cruising, and then you kept the pressure on, took a couple of wickets, and that was a hell of a match. And Bangladesh has a lot of positive taking out of that match, and hopefully Bangladesh will continue with the confidence they have shown in the last couple of matches and have a good game.
Okay, so both Bangladesh and England have played some very entertaining games. That last game between England and Pakistan, the fact is that the England batsmen yet again put the runs up, but Ajit, they pride themselves in chasing these big scores. It may not happen every time in the World Cup, and sometimes it can be put beyond you like Pakistan did. England's bowling remains perhaps the bigger question mark, and we're just looking at the numbers for England's bowling. For a team that's supposed to be formidable, given that there's a second from bottom, just in terms of I think in terms of strike rate at that point and economy rate, average as well, that's a concern. It's not worthy of a team that's vying to be contenders for the title.
No, I always felt before the start of this World Cup, till they had not included Jofra Archer, that their bowling, might let them down at some stage in this World Cup. Jofra Archer's obviously given them that a little bit of an X factor, but we saw in that game against Pakistan, for all the ability that he has, he's still an inexperienced player at this level, and he'll probably learn from that experience as well. So they've got work to do in the bowling. I don't think they can win this competition just with their batting alone. They'll have to produce some performances with the ball, just enough so that their batsmen are not put under pressure all the time. You can't keep chasing, and as good as they have been over the last few years or last couple of years at least, you can't keep expecting them to chase 330, 340. I don't think it's going to work. And like Pakistan's game, at some stage, maybe at a crucial stage of the tournament, it's going to come back and bite them. So they've got to start putting a better performance with the ball.
With all that's being done and said, and we've seen in that Australia-West Indies game, in that England-Pakistan game, the use of the short ball, are you expecting that to continue a trend against a team like Bangladesh, who actually played it very well against South Africa?
Yeah, but West Indies at this point have their plans, and that suits their attack.
Yeah.
And they're executing it well, which is not an easy thing to do in one-day cricket. Doesn't matter even if you have the pace. I think Jofra Archer is the one guy who can do it. Mark Wood's got that. You'll have to look at the conditions. I think Cardiff's produced some pitches where it seamed around or swung around a little bit. And if that is the case, you don't necessarily need to bounce guys out. I think if there is movement on offer, that's the way that you'll trouble the batsman. So it'll have to depend on the conditions. But they've guys like Vokes or Ben Stokes don't necessarily need to do that. I mean, they're style of bowling is a bit different. Archer can at times do it with his pace. I think too much sometimes gets made of it. It's how you create the opportunities to get wickets, especially early on, so that the middle part of the innings just becomes a little bit easier for the bowlers to follow. That is important. And England weren't very good against Pakistan at the start.
Yeah, I mean, if the short stuff comes the way of Bangladesh's openers, they had an answer to it against South Africa, so they will be ready for it against England. The ball did move a bit in that Sri Lanka-Afghanistan game, so it might be a different challenge here. But Shahriar, an opening batsman yourself, the start that Tamim Iqbal and Soumya Sarkar, they've looked so good for small periods in these first two games. They gave them a steady start in both games, with neither of them, in spite of getting a start, getting a big score. Now, when we've seen, these are some great numbers, the impact in wins. When Soumya Sarkar scores over 50, Bangladesh always win. When Tamim Iqbal scores above 50, they win 80% of the times. What you're looking for are two players that are looking good, especially Soumya, who's looking in such good touch, to actually carry on. What will it take for them to put in that big innings? Do you feel it's just around the corner?
What I believe it is Soumya and Tamim, the most important thing they are doing for Bangladesh is putting up a good partnership. Both the matches they had a good partnership, but if you are a Bangladeshi fan, you want them to carry on for a big innings. At this moment, Soumya has looked more fluent. He's a new guy who likes to play the shots. He is going to play the way has been playing. But as a Bangladeshi fan, you want Tamim Iqbal to score big, because when Tamim scores big, Bangladesh wins most of the matches. At this moment, Tamim, personally believe he is bit into the shell. He needs to come out. He needs to carry on. I know the role for Tamim has changed drastically for a couple of years, because you want him to bat long. Yes, I want him to bat long, but I want to bat him like Tamim did for last 10 years.
You know, the other challenge is, again, the depth of England's batting, Shahriar, and we know that they pride themselves on playing the power game. If you look at Jos Buttler's numbers, formidable player who's just got going in the World Cup and put up 100 for fun the game against Pakistan, albeit in a losing cause. But in what we're seeing with Buttler, most runs at number 5 or lower. The use of Mashrafi Mortaza's bowlers is key. And I think there's another question about Mashrafi himself now, who in 2 games has not completed his 10-over quota. He's big in terms of leadership and tactics for this team. But are you a little worried about the role Mashrafi, the bowler, plays in this team?
Mashrafi still is a very good bowler. There's no doubt about it. But the way he's operating himself, I have some questions, because for last 10-15 years we have seen Mashrafi bowl with the new ball, because he doesn't have that pace. What he had got seam movement, he has good areas, but for last few matches, as Mustafiz is coming back to his best, probably the team management and the captain are thinking whether they are going to go with Mustafiz or Mashrafi, because Mashrafi in the middle overs, he's not going to get the swing or the cut which out of the pitch. So what I believe, Mashrafi should take the new ball with Mustafiz, and when Mashrafi swings the ball, he's at his best. So he's bowling at the middle overs is not becoming that effective. So if he starts with Mustafiz, then Mashrafi can fulfill his quotas, and that will be better for the team at this moment, what I believe.
All right, England always score 300s. Bangladesh were brilliant against South Africa, scoring 330, and then the batting didn't put it together, 240. Or a Bangladesh perspective, you'd want consistency. Is that their biggest challenge this World Cup, to get big scores consistently?
It is, because you can see when they put up their best performance, they can compete with anyone or be better than anyone or the teams that are playing in this World Cup. And their challenge has been that. I mean, over the years, you can see the progress they've made, obviously. They've had some huge wins, not just World Cup, but other, in between the World Cups as well. But this is the real test. I think they've got some really good. I mean, Shakib's a world-class player that they have, or all-rounder that they have. You need to start performing or putting yourself in positions where you've got a chance to qualify. I know it's early days, just 2 games, but that's the one thing. You can't get away by saying you've had some good victories again, and Bangladesh is a good team. I think they'd be expecting a lot more of themselves. I think they'd be expecting that they can get that consistency to qualify for the top 4. I don't think it's merely a case of Bangladesh just turning up anymore and having a few good results. And I think they'll be judged because of that. If they can get through the top 4, I don't think it'll be it'll be a shock. I mean, they've got the team, but like you said, they need to put some consistent performances over 9 games.
Yeah. Prediction, is England too strong, even though they've lost the last one?
Yeah, I mean, before the game, you've got to pick England. I think England have been one of the standout teams in the last few years now. At home as well, must be hurting after that loss against Pakistan. Didn't lose by too many runs.
Yeah.
Pakistan played exceptionally well on the day. So you've got to go with England.
All right, Shahriar, positive of a good campaign for Bangladesh, but is England too strong an opposition for them? What are your predictions?
If you are doing a prediction before the match, it has to be England, because England has been one of the most dominating one-day team for last few years. But you know, as Ajit said, if Bangladesh can put up a consistent performance, they are good enough in any day. So I hope Bangladesh brings their best game. They sort out their like orders and the bowling and the batting, and if they bring their best game, Bangladesh can beat England.
Right, so England would start as favourites before this game, but you never know what you can get if Bangladesh play their A game. This is match number 12 in the World Cup. England v Bangladesh on Saturday.
Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and leave your comments in the comment section below. Click on the bell icon for notifications.